Hello, I am Sean Sands from GamersWithJobs.com and the Gamers with Jobs conference call. We're here to take a look at the PC version of the new Doom from id and Bethesda. This is just releasing today. We're May 13th. This is going to be a little bit of a combination of both multiplayer and single player. We're looking at the single player campaign here. I'm going to avoid having any kind of spoilers or anything in here, so I've taken a lot of the story beats out and just sort of picked some examples of gameplay elements that I think are interesting, so it'll kind of bounce back and forth. There's been a lot of controversy, I think, in the release of Doom here. In particular, Bethesda was really slow to put out any review copies, which is not a big deal for me because, for big games like this one, most AAA games, we don't ask for and aren't normally offered a lot of review copies. They come in from time to time, but for the most part, as is true here, I buy most of my games, not all of them, but most of them, and I did. I put my money down here on Doom, but I have to admit I was hesitant to do so. After Bethesda was very determined, sort of real cagey about how they were going to give copies of the game to reviewers, which, particularly given that it wasn't getting great press recently out of the open beta, seemed to send all of the wrong signals in a lot of ways, at least to me, which was that they didn't have a lot of faith in the game, or did but didn't feel like they'd get a fair shake. I don't want to put words in their mouth. I'm sure they're very proud of the game and feel like it's an excellent representation of the where Doom is now. But just sort of the message that decision sent, it felt off to me, which is all the more interesting because so far I'm really liking Doom. I mean, to the point where I recently did another video just talking about that review issue, in which I was sort of at the point of just assuming, well, I guess it's not going to be that great. Like, to me, that just reads pretty consistently, and I think there's a lot of history for it of when companies hold back review copies, hesitant to give access to the press. It tends to look like they're kind of trying to make sure that reviewers aren't going to get in their way and kind of say bad things about their game before they have a chance to sell a bunch of copies, which I don't think was necessary here. I mean, that's not my call, and I'm sure there's a lot of decisions that went into it, and I'm not sitting here trying to play, armchair quarterback. I'm strictly talking from my point of view. I am surprised how much so far I'm enjoying this game and in multiple modes of this game, given that sense I was getting ahead of time. And frankly, I came very close to not buying this game, which at one point when it was announced was kind of a no-brainer. Like, it was never really much up for grabs that I wasn't going to pick up Doom. Of course I was going to pick up Doom. I grew up on Doom. Doom's, this venerable franchise. How would I not buy it? And just it over course of days and weeks and months, it just seemed like less and less a good bet. Now, getting back to the substance of the game itself, I really am glad I am. I'm surprised, both how much it fundamentally feels like a Doom game, but also feels like a really good evolution of that model. As you can kind of see here, it's super bloody. It's kind of hyper violent. It's visually really impressive, and I do not have settings maxed out here. I'm not sure my PC could handle totally maxed settings, but it's a good looking game, and it really fits its sort of ethos, which is just sort of mindless. It's a pure mindless shooter, right? It goes back and harkens back to the old days of Doom and Quake and Unreal Tournament, and even Serious Sam. Like, the campaign is faithful in a way that, honestly, I just didn't expect it to be. All the vibe I was sort of getting from the multiplayer sessions, and leveling up and just unlocking stuff, and kind of had that very Call of Duty feel, which is not to degrade Call of Duty, which is a fine game. I've played it before and enjoyed it. It's not my favorite, but you know, when you announce a Doom game, I kind of want a Doom game. And a Doom game is a very specific thing, right? It's going through, you know, Mars levels and shooting bunches and bunches of demons and, you know, eventually kind of, you know, upgrading your weapons and running around with the combat shotgun and, oh, also running around with a chainsaw. Like, this is pure Doom, and the execution is surprisingly, for me, good. When you get actually into the hard sort of gameplay mechanics of it, you'll be able to see that you know, it feels very very fast. Like the game is tuned very much to give you a sense of speed. You know, when I think of something like a Dead Space, which is a, you know, another really good game in its own right, that game feels very methodical, and there's that sense of being in a nightmare where you're running through molasses. You know, that sense of impending danger, and you know, when you just don't have the ability to kind of move the way that feels right to you. Like, that has a great sense of style and I don't know, just environmentalism about it. Environmentalism, not, you know, meaning the way it's kind of creating an environment. Doom is very different than that, right? It's still it's less a pure horror game. It's certainly, you know, I think this is less a Doom 3 than it is a boy, why is that chainsaw thing still on the screen? I didn't notice that when I was playing. Anyway, it's less a horror game and more just kind of a constant running shoot 'em up action game with scary moments, with sort of a horror ethos surrounding it. And this hits that note really well. I mean, the controls are very fluid, feel very smooth. The gunplay feels thick and meaty. You know, when you're shooting the shotgun or you're firing a rocket or something like that, that all kind of comes together really well. Throwing a grenade, like, those things feel like they've got, you know, this sort of massive weight of explosion behind them. They feel dangerous and deadly. The monsters are, you know, you have your standard fare. Again, this is very early in the game, probably I think the second level. This is, yeah, that's like a classic Doom moment. Like, kick into high gear, do something that's clearly going to spawn a bunch of monsters, then spawn those monsters, then just shoot those monsters and break their heads. Again, probably not one to show your parents or your significant other or whatever, but right down the middle of what made Doom and Doom 2 and Ultimate Doom, and what made those things really fun, right? This is very much a game. It's not a simulation. It's not it's not an environmental horror experience. It is a pull out the weapon and just go to town, right? It doesn't ask you to be super inventive either. While it does have those, you know, these challenges that you can unlock, it does also sort of have a little bit of an RPG element, mostly in that you can collect, you can collect weapon upgrades and armor upgrades and little environmental improvements. But for the most part, when you're playing, you're not really thinking about that. Like, oh, I can't wait till I get, X power. That's not how this game works. It just sort of, it's sort of flavor to the text. I really like that too. I like that the game has a sense based on the difficulty setting and what you do. Like, it rewards you for doing what it calls those glory moves or something like that. Anyway, when you see when the enemies sort of flash, you can go and finish them essentially. I mean, it's sort of straight out of Mortal Kombat or something like that. And then it pops out. Loot pinatas out a bunch of health or potentially ammo or something like that. Here's essentially the machine gun. The game is pretty good about keeping a steady flow right at the start of weapons, and like I said, it also have weapon upgrades and secondary fires that you can unlock and or buy. Buy not meaning with real money here, but with your upgrade points that you get for finding stuff. One of the things I really like about this, and we're about to see it here, is the outdoor environments too. The game does a good job of making it feel like you're in tight confines at some points and in big spaces in others. So you can actually go out onto the Mars surface and fight out there, which I not that not like mind-bendingly amazing, but I think it adds to the overall effect of the game. It feels very mechanical and kind of dirty and grungy, and like it just there's something about the Doom feeling that is captured really well here. It is definitely a game where it's it kind of, I guess, almost, I wouldn't say standard for any time period or now versus otherwise. Like, you'll walk around and it becomes clear when you're about to walk into an fight environment, right? You'll start seeing the power-ups you'll pick up, or the things you'll hide behind, or the layout just has that screen, that feel of you're about to go into an encounter. And it does that, right? And then just monsters appear out of flashy red demon spawner things. It doesn't even matter. Like, there's not much of a credibility building around that. It's just saying, hey, guess what? There's about to be monsters. Get your guns, get ready, go have fun. That's a big power-up that I just managed to consistently avoid. That would have been a great thing to have in this fight. You'll see me just almost like I'm dodging it again later. I actually thought it was like a graphical glitch, like one of the little imp fireballs had gotten stuck in the air. Nope, that's me skipping over like a quad a quad damage thing. There's a lot of movement. I mean, that's another thing. This is definitely not a cover shooter by any means, which I'm really grateful for. I've played a lot of cover shooters. Dodge that again. Yeah, there's a great sense of feeling out in the open on this. There's no kind of feeling of having to constantly get behind something that so many of these cover shooters have, right? It's you can kind of be out in the open in the way that bullets and projectiles work. Makes it feel like you can kind of be engaged in the game as it's going along, instead of kind of constantly just moving from cover to cover and dodging your head up, which I just kind of increasingly find old and annoying and not a lot of fun. This is an example of, there's all kinds of upgrades you get throughout the game. This one gives you an option of just purely upgrading your possible health, possible armor, possible ammo. I assume these are littered throughout the game, along with the other kind of mini upgrades you get. Coming up on the story moment here. Don't worry, I cut it pretty soon.
It seems to agree with you. I will unlock the remaining Argent cells within the facility for you. Vega, give him what he wants.
I do like that there's some sort of story going on. I know that's not fundamental to the old school Doom or Quake, but I kind of like it. So what about multiplayer? I mean, Doom is sort of built on the foundation of multiplayer, and what better thing to try than a team deathmatch? Though there are numerous modes in here in the game that I'll probably try out more at some point. Multiplayer also feels lightning fast. It does have that issue that I feared a little bit, where there's just a lot of unlockables, and there's lots of it's fun to have sort of armor configurations. I got no problem with that, like unlock this cool new armor or this cool new pattern, or those sorts of things. I really think Overwatch is on the right track with that. But there's in each battle you can kind of have these I think they're called hacks or something like that, hack modules. Yeah, and you can see that that provides you certain boosts during the game. Like in a minute, you'll see that I have a hack module that allows me to track the last person who killed me across the map, which is great. I mean, I do kind of like that. Don't get me wrong. I think having that component adds a bunch to the game. But having it gated behind these, yep, shotguns are strong. Yeah, you see that sort of red thing off in the distance? Well, you'll see it again here. You see how he's turned red? That's my hack module allowing me to try and seek retribution. So he's far away from me here, but I'll use it in a minute. Or get bonus experience if you're involved in a firefight with it. You help a teammate. So you see, I tracked him, and now he's behind that wall, so I lead him. And yeah, I mean, that's a cool idea. But the fact that so much of that stuff is behind these level walls, like, I understand that has a progression component, which I do find intriguing, but part of me just wants to freaking play a bunch of Doom and have everybody be on the same page. Instead of worrying, oh, did this guy have some sort of, extra levels that gives him a bunch of stuff that I don't have. There is that sort of, that, chasing the Joneses, or whatever you want to call it, keeping up with the Joneses about, the levels, which I understand has on one side the component of keeping you moving forward, but on the downside, it always feels like it takes something away from the game directly for me. It's a minor complaint here. Like, that's the thing I'm happy so far to report, which is that I haven't played a ton of multiplayer, so we'll see if that holds up. But it very much is a get in and shoot stuff. One of the things I like about the multiplayer here also is that you choose ahead of time what demon you'll spawn as if you pick up the demon spawn room, and the demons they're super tough, and if you get one on your team, they become a force. Like, I'm running from this guy. Nope, it's not going to do me any good. He's got stompy fire thing. Because why not? And you see here, like, that's one of my teammates now picking up a demon. No, not one of my teammates. Sorry. That was one of the evil team picking up a demon room. This is going to be one of my teammates picking up the demon room. And now he's on my side, and he's got this... I forget what they're called, Reaver maybe, or something like that, but he can fly and shoot missiles, and the missiles, trust me, they hurt. They do a ton of damage. And then it gives something like, now the rest of the team has to fight. Here I am getting the last kill of the game. Good job, me. I did a real good job. Overall, my take on Doom is surprisingly good. I'm excited about it. I want to play more of it. I want to dig in and finish the single-player campaign. I want to play more multiplayer, and that's not a place I necessarily expected to be. It's far from perfect. It has a lot of the trappings of modern shooters, and I could take or leave. But overall, I'm pleasantly surprised. So, my name's Sean Sanders from GamersWithJob.com. Thanks, as always, for joining us. We'll see you real soon.